You're watching another great interview on Audio Inc. Radio.
What's up, family? This is Sonny from the band P.O.D, and you are watching Audio Inc. Radio with my girl, Anne Erickson.
What's going on? It's Anne Erickson with Audio Inc. Radio, and I'm very happy to be here with the lead vocalist of one of my personal favorite bands, Sonny from P.O.D. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Wow, I cannot believe it's been 20 years since Satellite came out, which is just a huge record for you guys. I mean, does it feel like it's been 20 years?
No, not at all. It seems like we just made that record a couple years ago. That's how fast it goes by.
That's so crazy. Looking back in that period in music history, it was just such an exciting time. I mean, new metal and post-grunge were exploding, and you guys, were on fire with that record. What do you most remember about that period?
I agree. There were a lot of original bands at that time. You know what I mean? Just bringing together different music, different styles, and there was a lot of creative bands back in that time. And then to be able to fuse, punk and hip hop and metal and all this stuff was just a cool time. And but I have to remind everybody that our record was released on 9/11, so that was probably the most craziest thing ever. But one thing about P.O.D, we've always been a positive band, hoping to influence people and give people hope. And so for that time and that moment, that record I think was what a lot of music fans needed.
Definitely. And actually, I was going to mention that because I'd forgotten that it came out on actually September 11th until I looked back on the release date and stuff. But I do remember Alive getting a lot of airplay. And
right.
Like right after 9/11, do you feel like it kind of gave people hope? Because I feel like it did.
For sure. It was actually number one already on MTV, like TRL videos. And I think it was in the top 5 at rock radio. And so when 9/11 happened, it's kind of shifted everybody's thinking. They weren't all about sex, drugs, rock and roll, and, all their sad problems. A lot of that kind of sad emo core type music was out too. Everybody was kind of complaining about everything, and then once 9/11 happened, it was more about, okay, we're more of a oneness and a unity. And then that big question of what's going on in our world, and maybe there is more after life. And there's all kinds of questions. And we just happen to be one of those bands that, again, Alive was out on the charts. Our music wasn't like, or at least lyrically wasn't like, a lot of the bands that were out there at the time. And so we were probably just one of those handful of artists that, I know MTV asked us questions. They wanted us to get on TV and say something, or radio stations were calling us to be able to kind of encourage their listeners. And it was like, wow, our little band from San Diego, you know what I mean? Like the world cares about what we have to say right now, so it was a pretty crazy time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the one thing that really stuck out about P.O.D was that you've always been so positive in a genre that's not always known for that. It's great to have the angst and everything, but you guys have always been just like so unabashedly positive.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have the angst, and we have all that stuff as well. It's just, we grew up on, bands, whether it was Marley or Santana. There was bands that, had a positive outlook, but they weren't necessarily heavy, you know what I mean? So maybe it wasn't as intimidating or threatening or preaching, but for us in the metal world, coming off the way we do, sometimes comes across like that. But we're just, I've always been, not always been, I came to faith, and it was just something that was natural in my lyrics and in the music. And, I found something that changed my life forever. So I figured that, or I knew that my friend or my neighbor, anybody listening, is probably going through the same stuff I'm going through and might need an encouraging, word.
Youth of the Nation was another huge hit. Do you feel like it's kind of taken on, sadly, even a greater relevance over the years because we've had so many school shootings and stuff like that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's probably more relevant 20 years later, unfortunately, that there's still no answers to whether it's gun control but not only that, I mean, I focus more on young people, and we live in a crazy world right now. We always have, but it just progressively just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. You know what I mean? Internet, everybody's got a phone now. There's no restrictions on things. It's like, I think I read a statistic that so many years ago, we live a lifetime of, say, up to 70 to 85 years, and our brain only takes, that's what it's supposed to consume, right? It's supposed to consume all this knowledge or whatever experience. But now a 15-year-old is already consuming all this stuff out there in his little brain and undeveloped body. And that's why we have depression, and that's why we have anxiety, and young people, or suicide rates are up like crazy. It's because there's just too much to take in right now. And unfortunately, 95% of what they're taking in is not good for the human soul. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
So here we are, and that's why we wrote that song then. It's like our hearts and minds have always been focused on young people and the stuff that they go through. And obviously we were a little bit younger then, but 20 years later, we're getting older and a little bit more experienced, but young people are still going through the same stuff, and worse.
Well, one of my favorite songs off the record is Boom. And it's actually one of the first songs that I learned on my bass guitar right back here.
Nice.
So, I mean, I feel like it's just an empowering, just fun, like, yeah, I'm here, take it or leave it. I don't know. So tell me about, kind of the genesis of that track.
If you listen to all of our records, there's always one song or two that just kind of gives a nod to, our city or where we come from or how we grew up, our neighborhood. So it's just more of I say pride, not to be prideful, but just we represent where we come from, you know what I mean? And then, again, like you said, we have songs like Euthanasia or Alive, they're a little bit more on the heavier topic. And then Boom is just more fun, more playful. Little did we know it'd become a huge ESPN, kind of sports anthem all around the world. So that was a bonus. But yeah, it's just like you said, it's just a fun song that we still play to this day.
Well, P.O.D, you already mentioned once, you guys are known for your faith, which I think is very inspiring because I'm a Christian and stuff, but you're not like a crazy, Christian. If that makes sense. So it's very
I totally understand.
Yeah, you totally get it. Yeah, it's very inspiring to see a band like you guys do so well just across, the whole mainstream realm too. I'm wondering, how has your faith and your belief in God kind of helped you during this rock star life that you've led?
Well, like everybody else, we're not perfect. You know what I mean? If all my guys were here, we could sit here and talk for hours about all the struggles and trials and mistakes that we've made, throughout this career. But that's the thing about faith, is that it's living, it's ongoing. You know what I mean? We're just because we believe in God, it doesn't make us perfect. It doesn't, we don't cross the finish line, you know what I mean? And have everything figured out. And I think that's what you were referring to when you say crazy Christians. They've kind of given that impression that, they're holy and everybody isn't, and they have it all figured out and everybody else is wrong and going to hell, when that's the exact opposite of Christianity. Christianity is recognizing that, man, I live in a crazy world. I'm kind of crazy myself, and I do need a savior. I need balance in my life, or I'll just go off the deep end, And so for us in rock and roll, like I said, we've all made mistakes, but today is a different day. You know what I mean? It's as long as we're continuing that, we're not sitting in our mistakes or our regrets, or sitting in even things that we know we shouldn't be in, and we're just getting out and moving forward, just knowing that God loves us, He cares for us, and He does have a plan for our lives. And so we try with everything that's in us to shoot for that goal. If not, we'd be shooting for our goal, which is way back there. You know what I mean? So it's a live and learn process.
Definitely. I totally agree. Well, going back to when Satellite came out, a lot of the bands that were really hot then, like P.O.D, or you look at as Shinedown or as Seether, a lot of them have had a lot of longevity like you guys and still have a big solid fan base. What do you think it is about that music of that era that just generation after generation seems to embrace?
For sure. I'll have to show my age here. We're actually a little bit longer, been around longer than Shinedown and Seether. I love those guys, know them. They were a little bit more after us. So I think for P.O.D, and you have like the Korn and the Deftones, there really was, and Seether and Shinedown, I think the fans were different at that time. A lot. I use the word loyal loosely, just not to offend anybody, but back then, we didn't have our iPhones or stuff like that. We didn't, if you had to go search the internet to find some old concert footage or something, it took forever. So you never did it. You know what I mean? So now I think the mystery is lost. I mean, going to a concert, it's like, it's everything. But now people today are so spoiled. It's like, well, I'll just bring it up on my phone and watch the concert from yesterday. You know what I mean? Or because of the economy with the music industry, people are touring more. So now it's like, oh, I'll see them next time they come. So it's kind of lost that special thing. Or, now these festivals, they never had them back in the day. I mean, you heard of like Woodstock and all this stuff. It was like a once in a lifetime thing. Now, every weekend in the summer, there's a rock festival, which is cool, right? Because it's awesome. And for people like, well, dude, I'll go see 100 bands for this amount of money. And it kind of kills that intimate, well, I'm going to go to my favorite, rock and roll club or theater or whatever, and going to see my band play. So, and none of it's wrong or right. It's just, we're old school, and we still have those fans that are like, dude, I'd rather see you in a 1,500 sweaty room, you know what I mean? Or a 1,000-seater sweaty room up close and personal than, 50, 60,000 people and you're way off in the nosebleed seat. You know what I mean? So it's preference, but there is those fans that are still loyal and they stick around and they're not just paying attention to what's on the radio. It's like, dude, I love this band for who they are, not because the radio stations say they're good. Yeah.
Well, on the subject of touring, you have the satellite tour where you guys are going to be honoring that record. So what should fans expect?
Well, we just released a stream not too long ago. We did 3 concert series stream a couple months ago. So same thing, we're going to run through satellite, and then that's usually only albums like an hour. So we'll throw in a bunch more songs that we hope people know, and some of the latest record. And we have our production, and we're looking forward to it. We got some great bands supporting us, and I think now that concerts are up and going, I think people are just excited to get out and go see a rock show.
Oh, I agree. I think people are just like so excited to finally have concerts back. It feels like it's been forever.
It has been forever.
Awesome. You guys have any new music in the works?
Yes, we've been working on a new record. I think everybody has during the whole COVID time, but not being able to, go jam. I mean, we're a band that jams, you know what I mean? A lot of these new bands all live in different states and they just send files and all of a sudden they create music. Well, P.O.D. is not like that. We like to sit with each other and play music and figure stuff out. And so, it's kind of been a rough thing. So we've been trying to write as individuals, but it's just a learning process. I mean, not that it's difficult. It's just, we like to get together like what a real band is supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? And hang out and talk and vibe out and just jam. That's what bands do. So we're working on new stuff. And I know we're going to do the re-release of Satellite 20 later on this year. And then I'm sure soon after that, we'll be dropping a single at some point.
Yeah, you're kind of old school. I mean, you want to hang out with people. Yeah, not do it over Zoom. I totally get that.
Yeah, we're not a Zoom band.
Well, Sonny, it's been great chatting with you, and congrats on 20 years of Satellite.
Thank
that
you.
Is so amazing. And is there anything else you want to add?
No, thank you so much for having me, and just excited to be hitting the road and seeing everybody's beautiful faces out there. So come out to the rock show because we need you guys to keep supporting music, and we'll see you out there.